Welcome to Brew Crime, the podcast where we drink brews, talk crime, conspiracies, or whatever catches our attention. This is Mike and my co-host.
It's JT. I'm gonna hit you with a vertical suplex and then the people's elbow. All right, the green rises to the top.
And we've got a special guest today.
Hey, it's Paige.
Oh yeah.
Can you smell what the Paige is cooking?
Oh my gosh.
Snap into a Slim Jim.
I don't know a lot of wrestling terms and stuff.
That's about right. You hit the button on the head.
Do you have a favorite wrestler, Paige?
Ooh, that's a good question. Oh, I do. I mean, I've got a lot.
How about a couple guys? If you have a couple ladies, whatever.
Yeah, Sting is one of my all-time favorites, and the Hardy Boys, love them forever. What was the girl that used to hang out with the Hardy Boys, and she was
Lita?
like Lita? Yes, loved her.
You and Amber /
Jordan Blade.
she was on our last episode. You guys would get along for sure.
I know. I cannot wait to hear that because I know y'all have been planning this forever, so I can't wait. Can't wait to listen.
I can't honestly. We got to have her on a brewery.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, that will be so fun.
But I do want to say before we get going,
Resticle edition.
the resticle. I kind of want to say, and Mike, I know this is your it's your case, but like for those of you who are interested, even remotely interested in indie wrestling and want to follow somebody who's really good, you need to follow Jordan. So Jordan Blade can be accessed everywhere, including TikTok, at Jordan_Blade92, and so that's where you can find her.
And you should, otherwise she's gonna come for you.
Yeah,
It's
she
true.
could literally snap all of our necks. She is.
Yeah, exactly.
She's
She'll
badass.
snap an ankle. She will snap an ankle. She will do it. No,
And not
she is
hers, yours.
Yeah, she is a super lovely human being, and both. Well, I almost said both in and out of the ring. Out of the ring, in the ring, you don't want to be there.
Yeah.
But like,
Yeah,
truly,
she's a beast
truly.
in the ring, as she should be.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so if I don't see a dramatic increase in follows on her page, I'll be extremely disappointed. So everybody go follow Jordan_Blade92.
Do it.
92.
For sure. I mean, she's already hit like some of the AEW dark matches. So she's been
Yeah,
doing some
she's
of
amazing.
those, so
She was
it's great.
really cool to meet on the last episode. JT's already friends with her, and it was awesome to talk to her last episode.
I've very rarely met somebody who I didn't, want to be friends with, but when I met Amber the first time a couple years back, like it was evident that number one, she's talented, and number two, she's a good person, and I love talented, good people.
Yeah,
And and I'll support the hell out of them as long as I
absolutely.
possibly can.
So will I.
Which is why I love you too.
Yay!
And we love you.
No,
Sometimes. No, I'm kidding.
That's fair. No. There's a
kidding.
reality there. There's.
No, it is. No.
All right. Well, why
Your
don't I
turn,
give you the title to my case? From the high life to the dark side.
No, Jesus.
Ooh.
Tabernacle.
Undertaker.
Undertaker. This is not the Undertaker, though.
I'll see you in hell.
Exactly. Tabernacle. Which is like the worst swear word in Quebec.
Or like, if you're mankind, I don't know why you want me.
Oh my gosh.
I don't exactly know why he started sounding like Shaggy, like
don't
Zoink
know.
Scoob.
But also, side note, Undertaker and Kane were so badass too.
Yep. Undertaker,
Yeah.
as a non-wrestling fan, Undertaker was the only one that I ever kind of like connected with.
Yeah.
So,
Mine was
absolutely.
Mick Foley. It
Oh,
will
Mick
always be
Foley.
Mick Foley. He ran 3 characters at once, and somehow number 1 sold Vince McMahon on it, but number 2 did it effectively.
Yes.
And I will forever love Mick Foley, Mr.
all
Foley.
right.
Yes, that's Mike's sound effect. He doesn't even say that anymore. He just has a button that he pushes when it's time to get back together.
right. So, the beer pairing for my episode is called Barrel Aged Straight Flexin, and that's straight with an 8. And
Ooh,
Paige,
edgy.
for you, it's
I
definitely
didn't
a
know what
person
that was at
flexing.
first.
And this is from Twin Sails Brewing Company, and I'm going to read a little bit of the can just because why not? Weighing in at a huge 11.3% ABV, we took our base straight flexin and tossed it into Basil Hadron bourbon barrels, then laid it to rest for 10 months. So
Laid it to rest for 10
That's very
months.
Undertaker.
I
Very
love
Undertaker.
the look of that can. I love the minimalism of it. I love just
Yeah.
how sleek it is.
Mm-hmm.
I love
It's a-
just that arm. It's just perfect.
it's like a black can with like a flexing arm, but it's almost like a clip art. It's really subdued.
Yeah, I love it.
So Straight Flexin is one of their more regular brews, and this is again obviously it's been aged for 10 months in bourbon barrels, and bourbon barrels have to come from come from the United States and usually from a certain region in the South there.
You're welcome.
But this beer is like super rich, super chocolatey,
Oh god,
like
that's yum.
treacle
Ooh,
and brown
chocolatey.
sugar. It's sweetness and syrupy. It definitely smells like
so
dessert.
I'm not, I'm not a big drinker and I don't normally ever drink beer, but the way you're describing that sounds so damn good.
Yeah. Well, I mean, and this can comes in, and it's a small can, it's 12 ounces, and it comes in at like almost $8, I think.
With the way you're
Wow.
describing it, I expect my fucking golden ticket, Woolly Wonka.
Yeah.
But they actually have a
Yeah.
golden ticket beer where you could pull the label and see if you won.
I am
That's awesome.
not sad about that.
So yeah, this is like, it's super easy drinking, which it shouldn't be at almost 12% alcohol. It's chocolate. It's like, roasted malts and brown sugar and treacle and like syrupy, and it's a little bit thicker than your average beer. Carbonation's pretty low.
beer.
That's exactly what
This
I was
is
thinking.
absolutely a dessert beer. And if you're not
Ooh.
careful, it'll punch you in the face like your average wrestler. So be careful and enjoy this beer.
Y'all don't see it, but all of a sudden, like a nice black eye showed up over his left eye.
Well, I
It
have
is
to
great.
ask you now, since you both are like the experts on the drinks. Are there any other chocolatey kind of beers, or is that the only one?
Oh no, there's lots. When you get like these big bourbon barrel aged rich imperial stouts, a lot of them are really chocolatey and sweet.
Yeah.
Oh my god.
I feel like you either go chocolatey or you go like hard coffee, but even then there's like
Yeah.
a chocolate involved. So
Well, you know what? I could do some Googling if I remember and try to find a brewery sort of close-ish to you that
Yeah.
maybe makes a beer like this in the winter that you might be able to try.
Ooh.
Maybe share with your family because it is
Heck
they're
yeah.
usually like 10 to 15% alcohol.
That will easily get me drunk. I am
Yeah.
a cheap drunk.
Why don't we straight flex into this episode?
Let's get it.
flexing
Yeah.
my Alexander Hamilton shirt.
Nice. Adolfo Bresciano was born on August 6, 1948 in Cambasso in the Molise region of Italy. And I probably fucking butchered that. My apologies. And also, whatever.
We got some friends that live close to there. Eventually.
Whatever. His parents' names were Mario and Oziella Bresciano. And they decided that they wanted more for their son, so they decided to move their family to Montreal, Quebec, Canada, when Adolfo was still really young.
You know what's really interesting? Like, I don't want... Truly, I'm not going to interrupt too much, but that's a lie. Like, when somebody from outside, I think of North America, says, I want a better life. I'm not saying that they're wrong, because at this point, they're probably smarter moving to Canada anyways, but usually you hear that, like, that narrative of, like, I wanted a better life, so I came through.
But
yeah.
in the 50s and stuff, that was what everyone was doing, right? Like, if their life was hard in Europe or whatever, they were coming to North America, Canada, U.S., whatever it was.
Yeah.
True.
They would move to the Center Sud neighborhood, a poor working-class neighborhood that had a crime and poverty issue. Something that will never seem to change. It's almost like poverty causes crime.
Audible gasp.
Yeah. You would think that we could think up a way to fix poverty today? Okay, off my soapbox.
No, I mean, there's the whole, somebody who shall remain nameless, the new head of Twitter, who had calculated what it would take to end world hunger at least. And it actually fits within his payroll, in terms of his bank account. And yet he still refuses to do it. So
Of course.
it's like it's one thing to have a lot of money. It's another to actually calculate what it would take to end world hunger and yet still not donate that amount of money.
No doubt, right?
Oh, fuck 'em.
Absolutely.
That's the TLDR version.
Yeah.
Fuck 'em.
So Adolfo would fall in love with wrestling at the age of 12 and begin to train in earnest. I would have to assume that this would be Greco-Roman wrestling like you see in the Olympics at that age, as it's not really usually something you can train for in schools. Not usually, at least, right?
No, but if you can find a gym, if there's a local area, you could get into wrestling that early.
And again, we're talking the 1950s and 60s, so.
Then you really, actually, there's more likely you could, because there's much less enforcement on age and work.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, true, yeah.
So
I don't know enough about wrestling.
There's a lot of young folks that start out early on in the early 1900s. So, yep.
So in the 1970s, Adolfo would go to Sir George Williams College to study law. I have no idea if he would finish his degree, as I could not find mention of him finishing, and only one source cared enough to mention that he even went to college.
Wow.
Yeah.
Jesus Christ.
My God. Oh, no big deal. He went to college. Let's not worry about it.
It doesn't really come into the story much, but I do know that he would not follow the law career path, though, as he would end up jumping back into wrestling, but now on the professional wrestling side. Adolfo would pick the wrestling name of Dino Bravo, naming himself after a former wrestler, and we will stick with that name from now on.
Okay.
Dino's wrestling career would begin in the 1970s, and he would train under Gino Brito, or Brito, I'm not sure.
It's probably Burrito.
Yeah.
He would wrestle in Quebec and the United States. It didn't seem like he really went across Canada at this time, though. It was like Quebec and then down into the States, probably the East Coast. He would win the Jim Crockett Promotions version of the NWA World Tag Team Championship with Mr. Wrestling Tim Woods.
Jim Crockett, he's still a thing.
Yeah. So, back in those days, the NWA World Tag Team Championship was not tied to a league and could be set up by anyone basically without oversight. He would also win 4 other NWA titles over the years, as well as other titles. But let's back up a little bit here. Dino would start his time in Grand Prix Wrestling, from what I can tell, in Montreal.
Cool.
He would tag team with his mentor Dino Brito, or Brito, whatever. His stardom would catch the eye of a big player in American wrestling at the time in the WWF, or Worldwide Wrestling Federation, owner Vincent J. McMahon, father of, until recently, head of WWE, Vincent K. McMahon.
Mr. Senior.
Yeah, Mr. Senior, yes.
It's really funny. Every time we think McMahon, all I can think of is, what a man, what a man, what a man, what an asshole McMahon.
Yep. So McMahon would bring Dino and Dominic DeNucci, known as the Italian Tag Team, to New York.
There it is.
This was the home arena of the WWF at the time, as it was a regional company at the time, but they would win the 1978 championship. So they were, fairly big time. If you're going to be a regional fighter in Quebec and win in New York, you're not going to be small time at that time, right?
Yeah, and I think for those of y'all playing the long game with us and heard the episode about Snuka, it's about a couple years before Snuka comes on the scene, but only a couple, not by much.
Yeah. This was near the end of the WWF, though, as the company was falling apart, and Vincent K. McMahon would start up Titan Sports in 1982 with his wife Linda, and end up acquiring WWF, and in the end, it would end up being known as WWE, as it is today.
I like how
it's tickling me because I know what JT's about to say.
Well, first off, I like how he acquired his own father's business. But WWWF is a mouthful. And
Yes, it is.
It was funny because, like, his dad said it was a mouthful, and Vince was like, and he was like, no, not that kind of mouthful. Vince, come on, get it together. And that was, yep. That's all I have. Is that what you thought I was going to say, Paige?
Yeah, well, I thought you were going to say it's WWF, not WWW.
No, because it started out as WWF.
It originally was, yeah.
Oh,
The Worldwide
okay.
Wrestling
Learned
Federation.
something new.
No, yeah, the WWF was like just sort of that New York region, like sort of in that area of northeastern United States.
Yeah.
Before it was like a North American wide or an American wide thing. It was just in that area.
But isn't it just like Vince to be like, WWF doesn't work. I'm gonna call it
Titan Sports.
Yeah.
anything. There's a great YouTube channel. I'm gonna go ahead and promote them, called Cultaholic, and there's a funny small sting that they use every time there's like this big dude who shows up. It goes, Vince McMahon likes big sweaty man. Vince McMahon likes big sweaty man, because it's true. The man loved 6 foot plus massive dudes.
Yeah.
It never failed.
And Dino was a big boy, yeah.
Yep.
So Dino Brito didn't seem to be okay with just sitting back and wrestling for someone else, though, and he would form the company Promotions Verisec with Frank Valus and Andre the Giant in 1980.
Oh.
Are you wrestling me?
Yeah, and this is so Andre the Giant was originally like helping start a company in Quebec.
Andre, the dude is a legend on so many fronts. Like,
Yeah.
he would be perfect for Brew Crime.
Yeah.
The man could drink a multitude of wine bottles, cans of beer. I mean,
My dad
massive
got to meet
quantities.
him many moons ago.
Okay, tell us about this.
Yes, please.
That's really all. He's never really said anything except, yeah, I met him, years ago in Memphis.
Wake your dad up.
Hey, Mike. Let me put some numbers to this context. Andre once consumed 119 12-ounce beers in 6 hours.
Whoa.
That's
Now,
amazing.
I will say this. I will say this. So that's 12 ounces of beer downed every 3 minutes nonstop for 6 hours straight. And after it, he did indeed pass out in the hotel lobby and couldn't be moved. Now, here's the thing.
Wow.
If Andre the Giant decides he's going to pass out in one location, he's fucking staying there.
JT.
Yeah.
Now here's the thing. Now here's the thing, brother.
Yeah. Andre the Giant, man. He was great.
Yeah. So Promotions Verisec was a local Quebec wrestling promotions company. Think the regional WWE, right? So Dino Bravo would obviously come over to the company to wrestle, and 2 years later, in 1982, he would become part owner of the company. In 1984, Andre the Giant would sell his shares in the company, and it would be renamed Lutte Internationale, or in English, International Wrestling. And the company would flourish in Quebec, and Dino would become a big star locally.
You're my boy, Loot.
My boy, Lutte. Yeah. So while McMahon Sr. worked with Promotions Verisec, McMahon Jr. was ruthless at the time and ran Superstars of Wrestling, a wrestling promotion in Ontario, out of business in 1984. So he literally just pushed them out of business.
Wow.
Yep.
The same year, they would buy up Canadian wrestling companies Maple Leaf Wrestling and Stampede Wrestling out of Ontario and Alberta, respectively. So WWF at that time was coming for blood, basically.
They bought, I think one of the things they went for first was Canada.
Yeah.
And then they went down to the west and then moved east. I think that's what happened.
And it's funny because it seems like they went from east to west in Canada, and then west to east in the States. They just kind of did a big circle.
They did, and it's interesting because they literally took out Canada and they never put anything in there.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Like, unless they go to Toronto, and usually they'll go to Toronto because they have like Edge or another Canadian wrestler who's from Quebec or Toronto.
True.
And they rarely...
Or Dino Bravo, right?
Or Dino Bravo, yeah. I think they rarely go to like Vancouver now. I don't think they go there very often at all.
I actually don't know if they even come here anymore. Yeah, I'm not sure, but
Yeah.
it's not a big thing. Like, we've got some little independent stuff here, and I don't know if we get much wrestling at all here.
Yeah.
But Lutte International was still going strong in Quebec, but they knew that they could not fight head-to-head with the WWF. So they worked out a deal with them in 1985 where the WWF would have a home arena in Quebec and Lutte International would have their own. So they were allowing WWF to come up, but they had their own arenas, best of both worlds.
Yep.
They would stage 6 main events between the companies in Quebec, and fighters from Quebec would be guaranteed to win in 4 of them against WWF fighters. So that's pretty good, right? 4-6 it's a good odd.
That's pretty, because it was a deal with Vince, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's
Vince
fucking
Jr.
insane.
Yeah.
That's insane that they were able to get 4 out of 6.
Well, he was looking to take them over, I'm sure, right?
Well, yeah.
So
and
build them up, take them over.
Build them
Yeah.
and then take the stars, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Never mind. I lied. That's just Vince. Yes. Classic Vince.
Yeah. So the first Lutte versus WWF match was headlined by Dino Bravo and King Tonga versus Nikolai Volkov and the
Volkov, yeah.
Iron Sheik.
Holy shit.
Oh.
That's a hell of a tag match. Oh my
Yeah.
God.
So how have I not heard of the wrestler you're talking about?
Dino Bravo?
Yeah, even though I've heard of all of these others.
You know what? Because he's more of a Canadian local wrestler at the time, even though he was, fighting back and forth.
Big names, yeah.
But also, the crazy part is once you finish this, you're going to be like, how did I not hear about this wrestler?
Uh-oh. Oh, gosh.
Yes. The final match would never happen as it was to be between Dino Bravo and Hulk Hogan. And McMahon didn't want to see his star Hogan booed in Quebec.
Oh.
Look at these pythons, brother.
Oh, my
isn't that
gosh.
crazy? Just because he didn't want his star booed in Quebec. He's like, no,
Right.
it's not happening.
All wrestlers get booed at one point.
Well, yeah, but like that's the thing that Vince didn't like is that if they didn't cheer or they didn't boo when he thought they should,
Right.
he didn't like it. And the thing is that now, but even then, if you boo, that means they're still over because they're winning the audience. It's not.
Yes.
It doesn't fucking matter.
Yeah.
And let them do their thing, and that's the thing. He just couldn't give up control. But back to like the match, like you've literally built Hulk Hogan up as the American man, right? The Superman, the man who carries around the American flag. Eat your vitamins and
Right.
veggies, right? And you're gonna send him to Canada and then be pissed that he gets booed. He's gonna get booed.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. It's the local Quebec star versus the American
yeah.
star, right? He's
Right.
going to get booed.
Oh, absolutely. He's not the hometown guy.
No, exactly.
You want him to get cheered? Bring down Canada to America. Like,
Yeah.
put him against the Iron Sheik. I guarantee you he'll get cheered.
Yeah. So Dino would be enraged and unwilling to work with the WWF anymore. But he was known as the WWF Canadian champion. WWF was gaining ground in Quebec, and the writing was on the wall for Lutte International, and Dino Bravo would sell his shares in the company in 1986 and join WWF.
Yeah, checks out.
Now, he basically had no choice, right? It's just like, it
Yeah,
was
what do
going
you
away.
do?
Yeah, it's you want to keep fighting? Yeah, move.
That's,
Yeah.
I mean, that's how it worked. Vince strong-armed everybody. They
Yeah.
didn't have a choice. So
they had already lost stars King Tonga and the Rogu brothers to WWF, and after Dino left, they also lost Rick Martel and Tom Zank. So
I
they
know
were all
Martel.
like big stars in Quebec, right?
So he was the linchpin, really. Once they lost him, a bunch of people were like, "We like him. We're going with him."
Yeah,
Yeah.
basically. Yeah.
Wow.
That happened a lot in when Vince, was controlling a lot of stuff. If one person left, it was
Yep.
like, okay,
Yeah.
we're
Well,
going
and
to.
And the company folded in 1987.
There it is. Without the folding part, that's what's happening now.
Yeah.
You get one athlete that wants to, and I call him an athlete because truly, I think that it's a sport. To be honest with you, I
Yeah.
the whole
It's
entertainer
very
thing
athletic
is
and
bullshittery.
Yeah.
But
Well, it's like 1980. The company started. Dino Bravo became an owner in 82. 87, it folded. And it was huge back in Quebec, right? It's just WWF just was cutthroat.
Oh, absolutely, 100%. And they probably came in saying, "Hey, let's make you more popular," and then boom, they stole
Yeah.
everybody. Yep,
Mm-hmm.
that's
Exactly.
what happened.
Yeah.
So now, before I forget, Dino Bravo was also known as the Italian Strongman, or Canada's Strongest Man, and World's Strongest Man.
Okay, listen, you got to pick one.
So
Listen.
he was a legitimate bodybuilder that was known to be able to bench press 500 pounds.
Dang.
I mean, that's like my normal Thursday,
Yes.
and by that I mean 500 pounds of beer.
And this next sentence, you're going to know someone in this sentence.
Oh God.
During an on-air stunt, Jesse Ventura would claim that he was lifting 750 pounds on a bench press, but that may have been a fake record on stage. We're not sure.
Are you telling me that this is a conspiracy?
Yeah, yeah.
It's a conspiracy?
Like 500 pounds is it is guaranteed. Like it was seen.
Yeah.
It was.
Recorded,
Everyone knows it
seen,
was
like-
recorded. It happened.
Yeah.
715 might have been faked, but that was Jesse Ventura that was saying
was
it
a-
happened, right?
That
And
was the
anyone that-
lizard people.
Isn't Jesse Ventura one of the ones that was? Am I wrong? Was he in Predator?
Was Jesse in Predator?
Wasn't he one of the ones in Predator?
Let me look.
This is the sound of me looking him up. Yes, he was.
Dang
There
it,
we go.
JT, you beat me.
1987.
He was the one with the
sure
big
was.
fucking chain gun, right? Like
Now you might be.
it was him. Here's him with the chain gun.
Yes.
It was actually a gun off of a helicopter. You can't shoot that by hand
Oh, but Jesse could, I'm sure.
because it was a movie.
Have you ever seen that show that he has now called Conspiracy Theory with Jesse Ventura?
Yes.
Oh
No.
God, it's of course,
Oh,
Paige.
God. Mike, we've got to get you to watch it.
Why don't we watch it and talk about it for Patreon?
Oh.
Perfect. I will say this: season 1, episode 2, 9/11. Season 1, episode 3, global warming. Season 1, episode 4, Big Brother. This is where we're headed.
I mean,
All right, well,
it's,
we'll have to talk about that then, yes.
yeah.
Dina was also filmed doing push-ups with wrestler Earthquake on his back, a man that weighed 460
Oh.
pounds.
Yeah.
Like, this dude was tough.
Oh, a big dude.
So Vince McMahon didn't want the nice guy Dino Bravo from Canada, though. He wanted a villain.
Yep.
He would be forced to dye his hair blonde from the natural dark hair color and play up the dark side he didn't really portray on stage. Like, he was just a nice guy in Canada. Just nice guy
Yeah.
wrestler.
Vince was well known for taking wrestlers and changing whether they were
Molding
a heel or
them
a
for-
face,
Yeah.
Yeah.
and changing some physical aspects too, in order to make sure that they didn't go back.
Yeah. So here's an interview done for the WWF broadcast. You will notice that English is not Dino's first language, and likely his third language after Italian and French.
Oh, wow.
Well, good.
So
for him.
this is the interview
Good
audio
luck,
here.
Mike.
Yeah.
All right, my guest at this time is the former Canadian heavyweight champ. He certainly has been a force to reckon with for quite some time in professional wrestling. From Montreal, Quebec, Canada, Dino Bravo, come on in. A lot has been happening to you as of late, and perhaps we can talk about some of those things this week.
You know, a lot has been happening, but the most important thing, a lot more is going to be happening in the near future, because I feel that 1988 is going to be my year all the way in the World Wrestling Federation, and I intend to compete with nothing but the best. I want the likes like Ricky the Dragon Steamboat, Jake the Snake Roberts, The Rock Don Morocco that turned his back on all his friends. I can't not stand people like him. You know, I feel at my best when I enter that square circle. I get my kicks wrestling because I can take him down, and I can take him down hard on that mat, brother. And if I choose to win, I'm going to win each and every match in 1988, because down that ladder, up that ladder, I'm going to meet Hulk Hogan. And like you least expected, my friend, I'm going to take that buckle away from you. That's right, that World Wrestling Federation World Championship Heavyweight is going to belong to me before 1988 is over. And that's a promise, Mean Gene.
That's what I love so much about wrestling is the dramatics and the showmanship of it. I love that.
First off, Mean Gene, legend.
Yes.
Second, I know that we said that English was his third language. However, he still spoke it better than probably 80% of the wrestlers at that point.
You know, he stumbles a little bit here and there because of the language,
great.
but you know, it's not as like practiced as today's wrestlers.
True.
But this
You know-
is the early '80s, right? Mid '80s.
The funny part is if you listen to him and then you listen to like
Macho Man or
Macho Man or the Millionaire.
Savage. I know
Yeah,
that.
the Millionaire. What's his name?
Ric
don't know.
Flair.
Rick Flair. Any of them, Mike, the cadence exactly the same as his. So whether he had a third language of English or a first language from other guys, the cadence is the same. The
Yes.
entire
His-
idea was like,
yeah.
let me tell you something, brother.
Yeah.
His cadence was there, but because of the translation in his head, it sometimes got a little slow and a little jumbled up a little bit.
Yeah.
But the cadence was there for sure.
Could have been the roids. I'm just kidding. I don't know. He sounds like a decent human, so.
Yeah, I know. I don't know where this story is going, so I'm kind of nervous because I'm like, he seems cool.
You know, Mike, when he does really cool things like cool people, we just know that it's not going to end well for them. That's how we do.
Yes.
True. But also, let's just say, this guy is not a good guy.
See, I knew it. I knew.
But he's on Brew Crime. He's not a good guy, but he's also not as bad as some guys that are on Brew Crime, let's say.
Yeah.
Okay.
Let's go
I'll
there. Let's
accept
go
it.
there. I don't want to give away anything.
I'm reeled in. I'm 100% like hanging on every word.
So Dino would always be a draw for Quebec and Canada. But moving to 1991, after WrestleMania 7, things would start to go bad for him as he was getting older and Vince McMahon was losing interest in him.
What is older? What is quote unquote older?
35.
One sec.
And what's funny about Vince is that it's not even age. It's not even well, there's some looks in there.
Looks,
it's really
yeah.
money, right? Like if you can see a draw, if you put his name on a banner or a flyer or a poster and you see more people show up, he doesn't care how old you are.
He was
Right?
43.
That's not
It's not old, but it's older for
Yeah.
a sport where you're tossing guys around and stuff, or women, whatever. You know,
well.
Yeah.
You had the fabulous Moolah and whoever she went against at that point, and there weren't many. But
so yeah,
yeah.
it's not easy when you get into your 40s to hit the mat and get back up in the morning. But
well,
Yeah.
ask Edge at this point.
exactly, right?
Yeah.
So Dino thought about jumping ship to WCW, but he decided that it was time and he would retire from wrestling with little to no fanfare.
Aw.
That drives me crazy about that
Yeah.
too.
The thing was, though, that Dino had a love for fancy cars. He had a big house, and he liked to live large.
Uh-oh. Well, that's going to be a problem.
You know, he got in the wrong profession. Although, you know, if
Not at the time, right? If you're a star in WWF or
Yeah.
even Lutte International, right? He was a star. So if you're a star, you're going to be making big money.
yeah, and
Yeah.
You know, like the average wrestlers won't. But if you're a big star in the big local or the big
yeah.
overall WWF, you're going to make money.
And that's
Yeah.
still the same. The pay difference between a superstar or a
And
star
an independent.
and an independent or worker is even in the same promotion, right? Even in WWE, if you're a superstar, you're making six figures. If you're a worker, you're making mid five. And,
exactly.
and
It's still good money, but it's not great money.
it's
Yeah.
yeah, it's not. It's not. It's really rough.
It's not good to
tough.
keep up that lifestyle.
I mean,
that
let's put it
he's-
this way: it's for a Canadian here. It's kind of like either working as a average worker in the CFL, the Canadian Football League, or
Right.
working in the NFL. Right? I mean, the minimum wage in the CFL is $60,000 Canadian, which is not a bad wage. It's not an amazing wage for a professional athlete. Don't get me wrong, but it's not a bad wage. Anyone would love to work for $60,000, I think. Right?
I mean, yeah.
Yeah.
Yes, please.
But in the in the NFL, I don't think you get less than 200,000 in the practice roster.
Oh,
So,
dude,
it's
you're making at least $2 million in the practice roster.
no, you're not making that much. You're making
Okay,
200 to
listen.
300,000 in the practice roster. But if you're
It's to me that much.
yeah, but it's one of those things, right? Like you can do nothing and never play and make 200 to 300,000, or you can be a star in the CFL.
Does the 60 to 70 include retail?
I
Deals?
don't know. I
You
don't
know what I mean? Like-
actually. That's only their CFL salary.
You mean like
Okay.
sponsorships and things
That
like
doesn't
that?
include any sponsorships. If any sponsorships is on top of that.
Sorry, follow-up question. It's like I'm Dennis Miller. Do you find that like a lot of like, like let's say British Columbia, the Lions. Yeah, go Lions.
Ooh, go BC Lions.
Boo. Just because.
I don't like you anymore, Paige.
You know what? I need you to go back to your holler. That was mean. I'm sorry.
It's not mean.
I don't like you. I love you, Paige.
Love you too.
It's true. He's just saying that because he's Canadian. So is it just? Do you find that those guys, the guys that are kind of the stars of the team, are they in commercials?
A little bit more on radio than anything,
Okay.
but also like I know a lot of guys, especially from the States, that come up and play and become stars. A lot of them never go back to the States.
Well, I don't
That should
blame
tell
him.
you plenty.
And you know what? It's not because it's cheap to live here, because it's not. It's not because they're making a lot in the CFL, because they're not. They just don't deal with the same issues, and also they can make a decent living here, and not worry about a lot of the problems that they deal with back home.
It's
Yeah.
amazing that they can make far less, right? A whole digit less, right?
Yeah.
Decimal point less, and still be doing an amazing job and having an amazing time. Versus the folks here where it's like, oh, I got paid, here's my contract, and I guess I'll just kind of toss the ball around.
And I mean, hey, this is not about football, so let's get back to the story, though. I can talk about CFL all the time. With no more money coming in, things started to get tight. His whole life had revolved around the ring at this point, and he had no skills to give to the 9-to-5 job market.
So he didn't want to work a 9 to 5? I mean, I can't.
Well, he didn't have any kind of education for it. He didn't have any skills, because he literally went straight to wrestling.
Yeah.
He went.
that's
He
fine.
went to university, didn't finish, and then went to wrestling.
That makes me think. That almost helps me guarantee that he started actually like wrestling in a ring at 12.
And like I
Yeah.
said, right, he started wrestling at 12, I think it was. But by the time he quit wrestling, he was 41.
That's wild.
So he had never worked a regular job.
Yeah.
Not at all.
But even like a fast food place or something.
And at 41, you're not working in a fast food restaurant, probably.
No, he wasn't headed to the Piggly Wiggly.
No.
Uh-huh.
He did have an uncle that pestered him for years to work for him, though.
Rude.
Bum, bum, bum.
Oh God, no, Mike! Tell me this isn't the turn.
This
always
is the
the
fucking
uncle.
turn.
It's always
This
the
is
fucking
turn.
uncle.
His aunt Maria was married to Vic Catroni, which to most of us means absolutely nothing.
No, it sounds like something you rub on your arm for a rash.
But what
going.
if I was to tell you that Vic or Vincenzo was the godfather of the Italian mob in Quebec and was tied to the Bonanno family, one of New York's 5 families.
This took
I'd-
a hard left. Like,
I'd say that you just said banano. Truly. No, that's probably a poor choice.
Yes,
Don't
it
hang
is.
around with those people.
yeah, no.
Be better.
Vic had also wrestled way back in the day. Now, while he was whacked in 1984, that didn't stop Dino from working for the family.
You didn't sugarcoat that. You're just
No.
like,
Yeah, you're
yeah,
like,
he was whacked.
He was straight up whacked, yeah. Dino would start driving for Paul Catrani. So there was lots of talk that Dino would become a debt collector for the mob. And
God.
shit,
Oh,
if you think of the
Jesus.
size of this man, he would scare the shit out of almost anyone in a dark alley. Or a well-lit room, for that matter. 'Cause
Yeah.
he was fucking built.
I mean, you show up and you got the size, and then you got the, the heavyweight belt, and then you, and if you can't punch him, you just hit him with the belt.
Yeah, exactly. So here we go. I just Googled it quickly. He was 6'0", and he was billed in at 248 pounds.
I guess you really do have to have some kind of ego to really do a job like that. I mean, you
Yeah.
have to think highly of yourself, like, I've got this, I can do this, and not have a lot of fear.
Agreed, yeah. Especially when you're working with the mob.
Yeah.
Right, and that's kind
Yeah.
of what wrestling gives you, anyways.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So right in and around this time, Dino would also get involved in a very profitable cigarette smuggling business in Quebec. The tax on cigarettes in Canada is much higher than the United States, and things have only gotten worse today. But back in the day, cigarette smuggling was a huge business.
That's wild. I didn't even know that was a thing.
Oh yeah, no, it was
Oh, yeah.
a huge thing from the States because taxing in Canada is a lot higher. But I mean, that's why we have healthcare and, you know, our college prices, university prices are lower and everything,
Are
right?
you
Rubbing
telling-
in our faces.
No,
Yeah, for
it's what it is, right?
You know, my-
taxing may hurt, but also it's better for everyone because of it, right?
I'm not into having shit rubbed in my face. I don't kink shame, but I'm not really into it. But I mean, it's fine. It's cool.
Yeah. So a lot of the cigarette smuggling was happening on indigenous reserves that bordered the United States because they could cross the border without passports a lot of the times. I don't know if a lot of people know this, but a lot of the indigenous reserves that happen right on the border don't need a passport to cross the border. Because of treaties, both with the United States and Canada, they can just cross. So it makes it a lot easier as long as they've got a status card. So it makes this kind of
Yeah, I
this
didn't
kind
know
of illegal
that.
activity a lot easier. It's only with Canada and the United States, not Mexico, because somehow Mexico gets a really shit deal with a lot of things.
Yeah.
So Dino would make connections on the reserve, and it would help him smuggle cigarettes into Canada. And as time passed, he would be kind of pushed into helping the mob family bringing cigarettes into Canada. When I say this was lucrative, I'm not kidding. This was huge money, as high-quality American cigarettes would be brought into Canada and sold cheaper than the cheap cigarettes on the shelf. The mob was involved with trafficking cocaine, and this was better money than cocaine.
Wow. That is melting my mind. I just
Yeah.
cigarettes are worth more than cocaine back then.
Yeah. Probably still, truthfully, because cocaine's worth less now than it was, I think.
Wow.
Dino would move $400,000 worth of cigarettes into a warehouse in 1993, worth around $750,000 today. He would inform his mob family connections about the pickup, but they would not pick up the cigarettes for 3 days.
Well, see, now he's getting more involved than what he originally signed up for,
Yeah.
and that's not good.
Yeah. In those 3 days, the police caught wind of the 234 cases of cigarettes and 64 cases of tobacco, probably because Dino didn't cover his tracks well enough. But when the mob went to pick up the cigarettes those 3 days later, they would be intercepted by the cops.
Oh.
Not good, right?
Raggy.
Uh-oh.
Of course, there was also talk that Dino was involved with moving cocaine also.
Ooh.
Whoopsie!
Ooh.
Who knows, though, as he is not there to talk about this claim today? 1 week later, on March 10th, 1993, the lives of Dino's wife and daughter would change forever. Diane would take their daughter, then 6 years old, to ballet class, and Dino would stay home to watch the Montreal Canadiens play. So if you don't know that, that's a hockey team. NHL. Canadiens. There was no sign of a break and enter, and this likely means that the person that killed Dino was likely watching the hockey game with him.
Wow.
Right?
Oh, my God.
Dino would be murdered sometime after 9 p.m., the last time he spoke with his wife.
No.
Yes.
No.
Yes.
That's sad.
He was shot 7 times with 2 bullets to the head.
Oh, no.
There was some reporting of far more gunshots, but this seems to be the correct number, truthfully. There was huge inflated numbers, but definitely at least 7 shots to the head.
Oh, my God.
He would be shot with 2 separate guns, though, with a 22 and a 38 being used.
Whoa. So is
The
it 2 separate people, or is it one person with 2 different types of guns? Oh, Mike.
Big shrug, big shrug.
Oh, man.
The shit of it is, though, that his wife and sleeping child would come home late that evening after ballet and find him dead.
Oh, God.
Luckily,
That's
his daughter would not be awake to see him,
Oh,
but his mother would run to the neighbors to call the police. So at least she missed the blood and gore.
yeah.
This is where things would get complicated. To this day, we still do not know who murdered Dino Bravo.
Oh, I don't like this. I hate when this happens. I hate it.
We know that he was tied to the illegal trade of cigarettes in Quebec with both the indigenous groups as well as the Italian mob. We know that he had a huge bust of cigarettes in a warehouse that landed the Italian mob members in jail. We know that there was no sign of struggle in the home, which would make it seem like he knew the murderers, and maybe even that he was watching the hockey game with those murderers.
Yeah. He thought they were their friends, and
Exactly.
oh boy.
So Dino Bravo is remembered as a great father, good husband, and a guy that got himself into trouble through family connections as his career started to waver.
That's just tragic.
I know, right? And I mean, he was a nice guy. He was a good husband. He never beat his wife. Like,
Yeah, he was just trying to make money because he didn't have any skills to do anything else.
Yeah, he was a good guy, but he also had connections to the mob. And unfortunately, as his money issues started to be a problem, he kind of
Desperate times, desperate
desperately
measures.
went into that because he wasn't willing to give up the family, the money. Right? He wasn't willing to like downgrade from the big the big house and the car and blah blah blah.
Yep.
So if you have any info on the murderer, the family would still love to know who murdered Dino. Contact Crime Stoppers at 1-800-222-8477 or your local non-emergency line in Quebec with the police. And it's really sad here because
we know somebody knows something. It's always one person knows at least.
It was either the Italian mob in Quebec or even their connections in New York, or it might have been someone on the Indigenous Reserve. It was someone that was pissed off that the money disappeared, right? That the police were able to intercept all that money. But, he started out as a really nice guy, a really good wrestler, and fell into a life of crime and got murdered because of it.
Do you think it's possible that the police are maybe scared of the people that they may possibly know did this, and they just won't go after them?
You know what?
Or
I don't think so. I mean, the Italian mob is still a thing in Quebec. Just so like in New York and Chicago and stuff. It's not like it was back in the day. It definitely still is a thing. It still has a hold on construction in Quebec. Like if you want to get a contract in Quebec in construction, you probably have to go through the mob. It's still why the roads are so fucking terrible in Quebec, from what I've heard. But
wow,
it doesn't have the stranglehold it once did.
yeah,
The mob is not as strong as it once was. I'm sure that the Hells Angels and all that are probably much stronger today than they are. But they're still a thing.
gosh,
Yeah. But I'm not 100% done yet.
oh,
What?
I want to finish with a little bit about Vincenzo Cortoni, or Vic Cortoni. Since I mentioned that the mob boss at one time was a wrestler, also I thought I might as well get into a little bit about him as well.
yeah,
Vic was born in 1911 in Italy and came to Montreal in 1924. He was already a well-known criminal by 20, with bootlegging, assault, and battery under his belt.
holy shit, that's a lot by the age of 20.
Yeah. In 1928, he would be charged with rape of Marina Brasino. I think that's how you pronounce it. Those charges would later be dropped, as she would agree to marry him in May of 1928. And
Oh,
surprise, surprise, they would have a child together.
wow,
So I think he raped her, she got pregnant, and dropped it. It's gross, but
yeah,
it's a thing.
feeling forced to be with your rapist, that, oh my god,
Yeah. And Italian, probably Catholic. I'm sure the guilt was strong with them,
yeah,
right? So, literally my next line. I have to assume they were both Catholic, and this was the quote-unquote right thing to do when she became pregnant.
yeah, it sucks, but it
Yeah.
does happen.
At the same time, Vic would join a wrestling school with professional wrestler Armand Corville. In the 1930s, Vic and Arnold would start working as enforcers for the Liberal Party in Quebec.
Oh my gosh.
They would become infamous for their quote-unquote baseball bat elections in the 1930s.
Baseball bat election. Okay, what is it? I'm curious.
They would literally beat people that didn't vote Liberal
That is not what I was expecting.
with baseball bats, yes.
I was expecting like something that was going to be just a simple thing, not anything like have anything to do with actual bats.
Don't worry, though, because in 1936, they would switch to the Union Nationale Party, a conservative nationalist party, and continue their baseball bat elections. So they had
Oh
no interest in actual politics. They started out liberal, which is a centrist party, then went like basically far right.
yeah. Wow.
Yeah, it's I literally said it's crazy to go from liberal or sort of Democrat-ish to basically like far right Republicans today.
Yeah.
This would see both men have immunity in Quebec for decades. He would wrestle professionally in Quebec all throughout the 1930s on top of the crime he was committing. In the 1950s, Vic would begin to have strong connections with the Bonanno family in New York, and this would skyrocket his family to the mobster fame in Quebec, which would tie him into Dino Bravo and his eventual being whacked.
Wow.
But that's my case of Dino Bravo, and what the fuck? Who killed him?
I know. I wish I hope that eventually does come to light. I'm scared it won't, but I hope that it does.
I
And at the
don't think
same
it
time,
will.
this story did not go like it went so far left. I was not expecting where this went.
Yeah. Yeah, no, it's hard to believe, right? And I watched a really good documentary. It's one of my sources. I can't remember what it was off the top of my head, but they had both the daughter and the mother on talking about it because he was such a good dad and such a good husband, and unfortunately also a criminal. And they really would love to know who killed him because
That just gives you some kind of closure.
So often, like, these guys that are like criminals aren't good husbands, aren't good fathers, but this guy was like a really good family person and also a criminal. So they can separate the fact that he was also not a good person, but because he was a nice person to them, they'd like to know who killed him because he was dad, he was husband, right? No.
Yeah.
And I have a feeling. Yeah, I have a feeling because he hit a hard point. He went from being like the, high roller to suddenly being a nobody, but having a connection. I think that's just kind of, he fell into that connection, and
yes,
that's where
and I think a lot of us can actually relate to that on a level. If, like, for me, for example, having people in my family that, fell down the wrong path, doing things that are illegal, but they are still good people. They're not out here killing people. It's petty crimes. And, it just sucks when something happens to them and then you don't know what happened. They were such good people to you, even though, what they're doing out in the streets may not be good, and they're probably crossing other people. They're still good people to you, and so it still hurts, and you want to know.
Yeah, for sure, and it's been a long time now.
Yeah.
Hopefully one day there'll be some closure to this family.
Yeah, very interesting story, and I'm glad you told that. I'd never heard it before, so...
You got to pay attention to Canada.
I know.
We just want to live there. We don't want to pay attention.
All right, Paige. Well, everyone knows you from Brewery, but can you tell everyone about your podcast since you're here today?
Yeah, Reverie True Crime is just me, just a single host that narrates stories about true crime and sometimes paranormal stories. So yeah, that's what it is.
And where can everyone find you on all the interwebs?
Twitter is Reverie Crime Pod. Facebook, Instagram, and Tumblr is Reverie True Crime.
Nice.
Thank y'all for having me on for this episode.
Thank you for falling to peer pressure and joining us.
Heck yeah.
That's what I do.
Oh, yes. All right. Well, thanks for everyone listening, and I hope you enjoyed this episode, and we look forward to you coming back next time. You can find us on all social media platforms at Brew Crime. We have a Facebook group at Brew Crime the Group. If you would like to support us, head to patreon.com/brewcrime now. Money goes towards upgrading equipment and making the show that much better. You get one bonus episode per month, as well as early ad-free access to our episodes. So shout out to our Patreon supporters, True Crime Nana, Three Beers In Podcast, and the Faves of Our Lives. Bye. All cases on Brew Crime are written by Mike and JT or a writer we credit on the episode, and sources are put into our show notes for each episode. We always want to give credit to the people that research the cases we talk about. Check out our store at tpublic.com/stores/brew-crime-podcast, where you can purchase gear like t-shirts, phone cases, stickers, pillows, and all kinds of other cool stuff. Brew Crime's intro was created by Mike using Creative Commons Attribution licensed audio from purple-planet.com, soundbible.com, and freesoundeffects.com. Logo designed by Ben Greenberg. Thanks for listening to this episode of Brew Crime Podcast. Crisis averted.
Crisis averted.
All right, now I will press the intro.
Do it.
Basil. Oh my god, it's too bright and it's too dark of a can.
It's okay. I'm straight flexing now, if you know what I mean. You're what my mother would call a cheap date.
Yes, very much.
That's
so.
true. That's very true. She always says I'm a cheap, not but she says that she's a cheap date. And I'm like, Mom, I don't think that means what you think it means. But that's okay. What are you gonna do? It's fine.
Exactly. Well, excuse me. Holy crap. Try that sentence again after I stop burping.
It's been an episode and some change
Yes.
with high percentage alcohol.
Yeah, no, for sure.
That's just really funny because like very few. I'm not going to say that. Never mind. Let's move on.
Sorry, my beer can that I had earlier just attacked me. It literally fell on my finger. I was like, whoa, wrestling move. McMahon would, what?
You know,
Greedo burrito sounds so close to burrito that I'm getting hungry.
it also sounds truly culturally offensive, but
Yes.
Yeah. You okay there?
yeah, I just live to make Paige laugh.
Stop it. Especially since I'm sick. I'm like, oh, great. Now people are really going to hate my laugh.
No.
No, I have never heard one bad comment about your number one accent or laugh.
Luton are 6 of 4, or
And that's
I have to cough. I'm sorry. Hang on.
Aren't you
Perfect.
glad I Catholic guilted you into being in
Yes.
this episode?
all right. The thing was, oh wait, I already said that he had liked fancy cars, right, and lived large.
Mm-hmm.
So
Tight like a tiger.
there was a lot of talk
JT
that
is like, should I or should I not?
what's happening.
No, this is just me quietly
When
being
you
like,
said,
I have to pee.
Well, we'll wait a second then.
business, I'm sorry.
Business, yeah.
He all up in that business.
Business. Yeah. Oh, what this? Fuck. Let me just read this sentence because the sentence is fucked. They would be coming. Literally almost done. So don't worry, JT.
It's cool. I'm here.
All right. So yes, baseball bat elections. Bye.
Bye. Oh, bother. Oh, boy. Bye.
Can you smell what the mob is cooking? I might cut that one out.
Yeah.
Yep. Probably should.
Stop recording.
Mike's like,